cheeky monkey. Hello, cheeky monkey. Hello. Hey. Good bubble. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So if you hear Alina, she's in my lap. She's very clingy, so she won't go to sleep unless I'm holding her. I did manage to get her to sleep before, but when I left the room to get ready to film this video, she woke up. So we're here now. Don't mind her. As you may know from the title, I'm going to share you my labour story. I wasn't sure if I was going to film it just because I don't even know how long, but basically for a while after I gave birth, I didn't really want to share it because I just was still a little bit traumatized by it, I guess. But now it's pretty much been 7 weeks this week. This week on Thursday will be 7 weeks since I gave birth, and I feel a little bit better about it. Like I've accepted that what happened. So now I'm going to share it with you guys. I remember watching everyone else's labour story throughout my pregnancy, and I really enjoyed it, and it really got me ready for when it was time for me to give birth and when it was time for me to go through labour. So I thought I would share mine, and hopefully this will help someone out as well and help them with their birth plan, because watching other people's labour story helped me with my birth plan as well, and just information is really helpful. So I really hope that you find something out of this, and all the best for your labour and delivery if you're pregnant and due to give birth soon. So I had to write it all down as to what happened, because it's been so long now that I kind of am starting to forget what happened, and it's probably going to be all over the place as well. I've probably forgotten a couple of things, so this might not really be a very organized video and it might be a little bit confusing, but hopefully it would all make sense. And if not, just leave a comment down below if you have any questions and I'll get back to you. So basically 2 weeks before I went into labour, I was already 1 centimeter dilated, which is good. So pretty much I saw my midwife literally the day before my water broke, like 4 o'clock in the morning. Hang on. So come 4 o'clock in the morning on the 25th of July, my water broke. I thought when it happened, like I wasn't sure. Basically I woke up, I can't remember if I went to the toilet first then came back to bed and tried to go back to sleep, or I was just awake and I couldn't be stuffed going to the toilet. But I heard a pop, and I remember watching another YouTuber's labour story, and she had said that when hers broke she heard a pop. Obviously when it happened I was like, okay, that definitely sounded like a pop that the YouTuber was talking about. So I went to the toilet to check, but I wasn't sure because it was kind of mixed with blood as well. Called Idris to the room. Pretty much at this point as well into the pregnancy, any call I made, Idris would come running. So he woke up and he came. I told him that I think my water broke. He had a look. He also wasn't sure either, so we called the midwife and we told her. The midwife said, come to hospital and we'll check you out. So we went to the hospital. Obviously I was taking my time. I wasn't in any pain yet, like I wasn't getting any contractions. Even on our way to the hospital we got McDonald's. I was timing my contractions, but they weren't like, I don't remember them being painful at this time, but I do remember timing it. So I think it was maybe just tightening. I can't really remember, it's been so long now. If I'm looking down it's because I've got my notes here, because I'm already having a blank on what happened. Anyway, we got to the hospital. A midwife checked me, and she checked how many centimeters dilated I was, and I was at this point 2 or 3 centimeters. I can't remember. I think maybe 2, but I'm just gonna say 2 or 3. Yeah, so pretty much I couldn't be checked in yet because I wasn't 4 centimeters yet. So we went home, but my water did break, and pretty much when we got home, that's kind of when the contractions started to get pretty bad. So I think we probably got to hospital at like 6, then we got home at like 8 or 9, probably 8 I believe, just roughly. And yeah, my contractions were just crazy, and it was really hard for me to monitor my contractions too. Like I just didn't know when it officially finished, because it would be like so painful, but then it would die down, but it was still there, like it was just like borderline, and it would just stay. So there was no consistency with my contractions. So not only was I like freaking out, I was emotional, I was in pain. So I called my personal midwife. The other midwife I called was just the midwife center. This time I actually called my midwife by her mobile phone because she had started work by then. And I explained it to her, and she didn't really quite understand either, so she pretty much just told me to come in and to check me out. So we went back again. This time we were obviously rushing because my contractions were just crazy. Like, even when we got to the hospital, we parked the car. On our way to get inside the building, I probably stopped like 3 times because my contractions came. My midwife's name is Beth. She checked me when I got there. She monitored my contractions. She monitored Alina's heart rate. Alina's heart rate was fine, but then when she saw my contractions, she understood what was going on. Hang on. Why aren't you going to sleep? You're tired, but you don't want to sleep. You were sleeping before. Okay, I was going to be like rocking. So sorry if it gives you a headache. Yeah, so my contractions got stronger at this point as well. And because she saw what was going on with my contractions, she realized that pretty much they were doing what I had said I was doing. So it was really hard to monitor it. She went and spoke to the doctor, and the doctor gave her the okay to let me check in early, even though I wasn't 4 centimeters dilated yet. And yeah, so I checked in, had my own room. It's pretty much the room where everyone gives labour, so you get your own room. As soon as I got there, my midwife Beth said strip, hop in the shower, and I sat in the shower for like an hour to an hour and a half possibly, and it felt so good, but still obviously the contractions were insane. It was pretty traumatic when I think about it. I thought that I had prepared myself on how painful the contractions were going to be, but I don't think you can really fully prepare yourself on how painful it will be. So eventually Beth had asked me to hop out. I didn't want to because it was so nice to just be sitting under warm water. Put on my clothes, went into bed so she could monitor me and the baby. So this is kind of where I lose track of time. Back in bed, baby being monitored, my contractions being monitored, contractions coming still, and still very painful and lasting a lot longer. So just in case you don't know, because I didn't know until I got pregnant and I was seeing my midwife on a monthly basis. With your contractions, you always get a break. I didn't know that, so I'm pretty sure there's someone out there watching this not knowing that either. But you do get a break between contractions. But the thing with mine was lasting so much longer. Like, I'll literally have one big contraction and then I'll get another one straight after, but it just wasn't that strong as the first one. So it was just kind of, from what I saw on the monitoring paper, that my contractions will go really high up, meaning it's very, very painful, and they'll go back down, but then I'll get another one and it'll just kind of go like that. And then it will stop and then repeat, basically. So that's kind of what was going on with mine, and that's why my midwife was able to get me to be checked in early, even though I wasn't 4 centimeters at that time. I ended up getting checked and I was 6 centimeters, and by that point, before that, see, I already forgot what's going on. So before I reached 6 centimeters, my midwife Beth had to leave for maybe another appointment. So another midwife came in to look after me, Robin, and Robin has suggested that I go for a walk. So I did. I went for a walk. Didn't really go very far. We kind of just went outside, downstairs, outside of the hospital. It just got some snacks. I wasn't hungry or anything like that. I was having water and orange juice throughout the labor and everything, but I couldn't eat anything. I just could not think of food. I think it just tried to feed me a banana, but that was it. I went for this walk. I kept stopping. I don't even know how many times I had to stop for my contractions, and then come all the way back. Anyway, came back, sat, got checked, 6 centimeters dilated. At that point I asked for gas. That was on my birth plan. And oh my god guys, the gas was amazing. So amazing. I only watched one labor story on someone who used gas, I think, and that was Dina Tokyo for her first birth, and she had said that she was very chatty and all that stuff, but that did happen. I was still like, I still wasn't in the mood to talk. It just was joking around with me, trying to lighten up the mood. I was just not having it. I wasn't being rude or anything. Surprisingly, I wasn't mean to him at all, and I wasn't yelling at him or, you know, telling him off. If he did do something I didn't like he was rubbing my back too hard, I would just kind of shrug it off or just say, oh no, stop. But I never swore at him or anything like that. Probably the only worst thing I did was squeeze his hands too tight during contractions. So yeah, I asked for the gas. It really helped. It just like in a few here and there. I didn't get nauseous or vomiting or anything, which is one of the side effects and I was worried about. Yeah, so pretty much I don't know how long went by again. Then I got checked again. I was 8 centimeters dilated, and then I think my midwife Beth came back, and then I reached 9 centimeters dilated, and then that's kind of when everything went a little bit cray-cray. Basically, it was definitely nighttime now. I can't remember exactly what time, but I gave birth at 1:41 a.m. on the 26th of July. Could be around 8 or 9 o'clock, or maybe even a little bit early, like 7 o'clock. I can't really remember. But when my midwife checked me again to see where I was at, I don't even know how to explain it. Basically, the thing is, when I was having contractions, I would reach 10 centimeters. But then when my contractions stopped, I would go back to 9 centimeters or 8 centimeters. So it wasn't staying at 10 centimeters. It would go back when my contractions stopped. And also, Alina had decided to move. So she wasn't breached, she was still head down, but she was facing upwards rather than downwards. And apparently her head was also up rather than down. And again, my contractions were being irregular, which is what they're worried about as well. Also, before all this as well, I had to get IVF because I can't remember why. I think I was dehydrated or something. I also had trouble peeing, so they gave me a catheter, and the catheter is what I was afraid of getting, which is one of the reasons why I didn't want to get epidural. So I already got the 2 things that you get when you get epidural, but I still at this point was refusing any drugs. But when I found out that my contractions were making me go to 10 centimeters but then back down again, and the baby was in the wrong position, I was considering on getting morphine. I think some people call it morphine, it's the injection. So I told Idris about it, on it back and forth, and then eventually we mentioned it to the midwife. The doctor even came in as well and explained to us what was going on, and pretty much recommended me to get some kind of drip to help with the progress. And we had mentioned about the morphine, but he had said that it won't help with the pain. It will help you feel relaxed, but it won't help. And he highly recommended me to go on epidural because it would be better since I'm going on IVF or some crap like that. But basically, he actually recommended me to go on epidural because things were just not going the way I had planned. I thought about that for like an hour. Like, I was so scared. I went into this labor with an open mind. I wanted to go with the doctor's recommendation. I didn't want to be stubborn and be like, no, if they recommend something, then, you know, I should really consider it. So I thought about it for like an hour. I was really scared. I didn't want epidural because I don't like needles. I don't like the thought of a big ass needle going in my back, and I was scared that it will hurt. I was scared that I would move and then, you know, I'd be paralyzed. And also, I didn't like the thought of the drugs going into the baby system, but apparently it doesn't. Anyway, so I had said, okay, we'll do it, because I pretty much still had to monitor me for another 3 to 4 hours. And I just was starting to get really scared and emotional, and, you know, like, what the heck is going on? This is not what was supposed to happen. Also, when the doctor was talking about all of this, he said that if the baby doesn't move and if nothing progresses, I'll have to consider C-section. But at that point I was thinking, oh no, everything, like, it will still, you know, work out. I wasn't worried completely about the C-section information. But anyway, the anesthesiast came in. I was so scared, like so scared. But the anesthesiast was really nice. He was very caring, very informative. Like, he talked me through it. He was just very kind. which made me feel a lot better. And all of that stressing out for like 9 months of pregnancy about epidural, and even in that moment too for the last hour being scared about the epidural, it wasn't even that bad. Like, they put anesthesia in your back first, which is still scary because if you move it's bad, but that wasn't like, you know, as bad as I thought it would be. It's like a bee sting. Not that I've ever been stung by a bee, but it's like a quick sting, basically like you're getting blood test sting. And then the next part, when they put in the epidural in the tube in, I felt nothing. Like, I literally felt nothing. I was still a little bit scared because of moving, and if I get contractions I'll move, but I was really, really good. After that I was in a better mood. I even told her just to go have a sleep because I was fine now. I didn't really need him to be by my side, because the whole time before epidural he was by my side. He wouldn't, like, he had to leave at one point, and I was just like, I don't want you to leave. Like, I did not want him to leave leave my side at all. Yeah, I told him go have a sleep. I was just chilling, listening to music on my phone, playing Tetris. I was completely fine, and I was talkative, and you know, I was in a good mood. Fast forward 3 to 4 hours, the doctor comes back in, checks me again, and Alina still hadn't shifted, and my contractions were still irregular as well. So nothing changed. I didn't even reach the next stage of labor. I was still in the first stage of labor. Also, while I was on epidural, so within the 3 to 4 hours, I was still taking my gas because I could still feel the contractions. It wasn't excruciating, but it was just so tightening, and I don't know, I guess the gas just helped me breathe through it. Otherwise I'll just tense up, which is what I was doing before I started gas. I'll just completely tense up, and the gas just helped me breathe through the contractions. Anyway, 3 to 4 hours later, the doctor comes in. Alina still hadn't moved, and so he said the C word. Yeah, I think he was willing to give birth. I don't know, because he basically gave me a choice. He didn't say you need C-section. He said you should consider getting C-section. So I don't know if that's his way of just being calm about it, or I had the option. But yeah, basically it was like, okay, well, let's have a C-section then. And it just was like his mood went from here to here. Like, his mood just completely changed. I still remember his face, the way he was acting and everything. Like, he was just so sad, so worried. Yeah, so we were pretty disappointed because of what it came to, but it was safer for her to have a C-section. It would have been hard for me to get her out as well, but also it would have been better for her. So yeah, basically the doctor said that it wasn't me which is the cause of the C-section. It was just essentially because Alina was in the wrong position, and it would just be really hard for her to get out, because apparently she was really trying to get out, but then she'll just go back in basically. So he did say that I can still give natural birth next time, but I'll just have to wait for at least a year before I can do that. So I still have a chance to give birth naturally. So that's pretty much when everything was just going crazy. Everyone was everywhere. They had to get me into the surgery room basically. It just was really quiet, so quiet, and his face was just completely different. But because I was on epidural, I was okay. Also, back on the epidural thing, I totally forgot to mention that they didn't give me like a lot each time. Like, I had a button to press, but I could only press it once every 15 minutes. It also goes off by itself as well. And yeah, so it wasn't very strong, as you probably already gathered, because I mentioned that I could still feel it being there, which caused me to still use gas to help with the breathing. Like, it didn't completely make me numb, which I kind of don't mind anyway. I really didn't mind it at all. Anyway, so they got me ready. We went to the pretty much operation room. We were sitting outside for a while, I think because we were just waiting for a whole bunch of people. While I was lying down talking to Bethany, it just was against the wall, just completely quiet and completely down. Like, I just to this day I still feel so sad that he felt that way. I was the one that was, you know, telling him it's gonna be okay, when he should have been doing that for me. But like, I totally don't mind, because I was fine at that point anyway. Like, I wasn't completely stressed out or scared because I was on epidural, so I was, you know, a bit blah. And plus Bethany was there with me anyway, and I completely trusted Bethany. I just felt really bad for Idris because he had no one to tell him it was going to be okay. So, you know, that was me for him. So while we were waiting, I had asked Bethany how long it would take, and she told me 20 minutes. So I thought, okay, that's not too bad. Anyway, we go in, they put me on a different bed, and man, seriously, it just felt like a lifetime. It felt so long. It didn't feel like 20 minutes at all, and it wasn't even 20 minutes. It took longer than that. Yeah, there was just people walking around everywhere. Had my arms out, both of them. This had the blood, heart rate, whatever it's called, patch on there. This one had IVF and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden I started to get really cold. Like my teeth were, it was rattling and grinding. Just took so long. I was just wondering, like, when are they going to cut me? Like, get it over and done with. They even checked to make sure that I was numb with like an icy pole. Yeah, and then it was just taking so long. I don't know what was wrong, but I was just really drowsy, like I was out of it. I was drowsy, I was freezing. I was a little bit like scared and uncomfortable because of these feelings. It just was by my side, but I could barely even talk, so he couldn't even hear me that well. And I was just so weak, like, oh my god. And then I hear this sound, and it took me a while to realize it was Alina crying. Then I just see a little baby kind of pop up over the drape that was covering the view, and then she was gone. And I was like, oh my god, there she is, but in a like weak, drowsy way. It just didn't see her. But yeah, so when we heard the sound, I was like, oh, what is that? It was like, oh, it's Alina, it's her, she's crying. And I was like, oh my god. And that's when I see her pop up from the curtain. It just still stayed with me, and we're just waiting. And then eventually he ended up saying he'll be back to go see Alina. And he cut the umbilical cord, guys. Like, he has been saying all through pregnancy, I'm not cutting that, no freaking way. But he did, he cut it, and he even saw her all like dirty and blood everywhere and stuff. And then this is where it just took like a really long time. Like, I felt like it took longer than it should have. And there was so many sounds going on, and the anesthesiast guy was, you know, talking a lot. I don't know what he was saying though, but it turns out that he was actually the only one doing the best job in that room. Like, he was making sure that everyone was doing everything that they were supposed to, and, you know, making sure that this was done and that was done. And I didn't even know, like, I heard him talking a lot because he was next to me, but I didn't know what he was saying because I was so out of it. But it just had said that out of everyone, he was the one doing the best job in the room. Props to him. Between all that waiting around and stuff, Bethany brought Alina to me and put her in my arms, and I could barely even like see her though. Like, I had to use a lot of energy to like lift my head up and see her. So she was like in this arm here. But yeah, I don't know. It was just, I was just so drowsy that I was just like, it seemed like I wasn't interested. But it wasn't that. I just had no energy, man. Like, I can't even explain it. It just said that, you know, I was shocked because you weren't you. That's what he said. You weren't you. You seemed like you weren't like you didn't care, like something like that. And it wasn't that I didn't care. I just couldn't do anything. I was freezing cold, and I was so drowsy, and I was so weak. I couldn't even hold her properly. In the end, I was like, babe, I can't hold her. So then he got Bethany to get her from me. And then he was with me for a bit, and then I think Bethany maybe, I don't know. He just came back with Alina in his hand, basically. That's all I remember. And then I was like, oh, did you say the Adan? Is it the Adan? Or Adan? Adan? Oh my god, this is embarrassing. Anyway, yeah, he did it, by the way, so lucky I reminded him, so he ended up doing it. Yeah, and we're just staring at her, and we're just like, oh wow, but still I was in that out of it mood. You know what I mean? And then everything was over, and then all of a sudden when they put me on a different bed, the baby was back in my arms again. This is what I mean, like, shit was just happening around me. I didn't know what was going on, but Bethany had put her back in my arms again, so she was just laying in my arms. But that was when I didn't have to use so much energy. Like, she literally was just like that in my arm. And yeah, that was that. And we're waiting outside for ages, and then I found out that I had lost 2 liters of blood. pretty much as well, I was actually passing out at this point. I couldn't keep my eyes opened. I could hear voices around me. They had to check if I was numb again, so putting ice all over, like icy pole over me, and I had to say if I could feel it or not. And even then, I literally couldn't even get a word out. I was just so out of it. And then I heard the doctor come and say congratulations, the one that did the whole surgery. And I heard him say to Idris, you're lucky that you did C-section because she wasn't coming out. So yeah, lucky that I said yes to C-section, because if I hadn't and we had tried natural birth and it didn't work, then it would have been a like rushed emergency. The C-section was an emergency, but it wasn't completely an emergency. If I had said no and we tried to do natural birth but it wasn't working, then that would have been a more higher risk than it was when I had said yes the first time and got her out safely. And yeah, so that's crazy. Didn't even realize how bad it was, because I wasn't 24 hours since my water broke when he suggested C-section, but I was coming close to it. So yeah, we were prepared rather than being behind. And yeah, so they pretty much moved me into the maternity ward, and those who have operation get their own room. So I had my own room, which is good. And again, people were still around. It just couldn't stay, which was really upsetting. He couldn't stay at all for the nights that I was at the hospital. We probably didn't get back to the room till like 2:30 or something like that, or even later. And yeah, I was still out of it, so I can't really remember much, but it just stayed for a bit, held Alina, and then he left, and then yeah, that was it. And I was at the hospital for 4 days. It was supposed to be 3. I was hoping to leave on the 3rd day, but Alina had lost weight. She was 3,020 grams at birth, and she was like 2 point something kilos on the 3rd day, because we're having trouble establishing breastfeeding, so we had to stay for another night, and I was pretty upset. But thank God, the next day, Sunday, ironically the day that was actually Alina's due date, I went home. And yeah, so that's pretty much my labour story. This video is going to be long enough already, but I guess I'll just quickly say that I was looked after really well at the maternity ward. The midwives were fantastic. At night time for the first 2 nights, they would take Alina to look after her while I slept. Like, they really wanted me to sleep, so that was helpful. This is a really long video, so I'm going to end it right here. Thank you for watching. I hope that you've learned something from this, and it will help you get through your labour. Just remember, everyone's labour and delivery is different, so don't expect what happened to me is going to happen to you. All I can say is go into labour with an open mind, because you never know what's going to happen. I didn't know that this was going to happen. I was expecting to have a natural birth. I was expecting to be only on gas. I was not expecting to get epidural at all, and of course C-section. You just never know. Alina was in the right position the day before I went into birth, and then all of a sudden she had shifted. So you just don't know what could happen. So don't take what I'm saying is going to happen to you, take it with a grain of salt, and just go into labour with an open mind. If the doctors recommend something, at least think about it. And if you're unsure, ask them. That's what they're there for. That's my advice to you mums out there. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.